the meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. In the absence of Kevin Rudden, Vincent Roy will be the acting chair of tonight's meeting. All those present for the meeting announce their name for the record. So Vincent Roy here. Go ahead, Alan. Alan Kemp here.
Yeah. Dan Byer.
Okay.
And then you just introduce. So this is Jeremy Stell. He's our new town administrator.
Hi, Jeremy. So
Hi,
Jeremy,
thank you.
just for the record, can you announce your name for the record so we can get it recorded in the minutes? And that'll be good.
Yeah, certainly. My name is Jeremy Stull, Stull. I'm the Mendon Town Administrator. I'm not a part of this committee, but I am participating remotely in the meetings being recorded.
Very good. Jeremy, nice to meet you.
You as well.
I think, I don't know if we actually got a formal opinion, but it sounds like the chairperson should just announce that the meeting is being recorded.
Yes.
Sorry.
I want to announce for the record, this meeting is being recorded. And that's that. So we got before us the agenda.
Yeah, and I think, so I emailed him, Alan's looking over, I have 2 sets of minutes from January 11th and February 15th. It is worth noting, I think on that complaint, which we'll get to, I think he referenced some other minutes. There was 2 other sets of minutes that we had approved that I didn't post that are now posted.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I will try my best to get through the rest of these. They're very time consuming, especially with some of those executive sessions. But we're definitely gonna get these caught up.
I agree. All right. So is Alan already reviewed the one that you sent out? Because I can review this quick. Any comments, Alan?
No, no problem.
Okay, let me just go through this quick. Just grow. Yeah, just grow. Grammatical stuff.
Yeah.
Commission should capitalize.
Let's say just do that.
I'll
fix it.
I'll make some notes. Okay. All right, so this is the one through. So yeah, I'm just gonna mark this up like.
You do that, and we can vote as amended.
Yes.
I think it was November and December, so those are now online, but we had voted for them. I think the 15th, actually.
Okay. All right. Alan, you want to make a motion to pass the minutes as amended? To approve the minutes as amended for January 11, 2024 and
Okay.
February.
You make a motion or I'll make a motion and anyway, I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
I second the motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, again. This just an August.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just punctuation.
Good.
All right. And
All
then,
right. So obviously we've got a bunch of other minutes that we need to do, but we don't have them ready to be reviewed, so we'll just review those at the next meeting. Okay. Item number 3 on the agenda, review and consider approving any vouchers or billing commitments. Do we have any billing commitments?
No, so one of these, you already signed the Hopedale bill, and then there's 2 other bills from Whitewater. One just came today. So if you want, it's just a monthly billing, and then this is for some sort of test of the consumer confidence report,
Okay.
just labor, and then we can talk about the billing, et cetera, but there's no commitments on that.
So there's no motion on these, we just sign.
I guess that would take you today. That was to prepare that consumer report,
Yeah, two copies.
so that's just like an extra.
Yeah.
That's the month of August,
Okay.
and the other one, it was the one you signed electronically.
It's going for Whitewater?
No, the next one underneath that.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, perfect. That's the Hopedale bill.
Yeah.
We get that paid.
Ellen, oh, good, you got a copy. Yeah, you need to sign these. These are all the other for that. Take this one. Okay. Tell me, I just,
He started, I don't know. I don't remember when he started, but he's here, and it's great.
I know he's there with us, okay, so is he officially started in that?
Yeah, oh yeah, he started in July.
I started July 8th.
Oh, welcome aboard.
And
Thank you.
I was hoping Jack Hunter could come too, he's on vacation, but I think, did you end up meeting with them in Woodward and Kern about the study yet?
Yeah, that's right, so.
Yeah, I can give you an update on that. I was here to talk about the open meeting
Yeah.
law because the board needs to talk about that, but I actually talked with Dan Scott today about the study. Yes.
Agenda too, and I.
Okay.
But
All right, well, just following the agenda. Okay, so we're all done with item 3, review and consider approving the budgets which were already approved. New business, discuss open meeting law. So this is where Jeremy's gonna kind of chime in. I don't know before, right?
Well, yeah, so we received, I believe I forwarded to you all, we received an open meeting law complaint. So the process is they file the complaint with the board then has to respond.
The Board of Water
The
Commission?
water commission has to respond,
Okay,
and then there's a whole process, so I believe at this point now, we have to review these alleged violations, discuss them, and then file a response, which I believe is where Jeremy is gonna help in town council.
shoot.
Certainly.
Do we
Yes.
need to discuss them in open session?
Yeah, so yeah, it should be, and it should be an open session. So we've got a number of these recently, and I could walk you through the process a little bit here. So the Water Commission received an open meeting law complaint. The complaint is dated 7/7, and it refers to your June 13th meeting. And I'm going to go under our obligations under the complaint. So instructions for the public body, that we must disseminate them to the public body, so you all receive them, and we must review to meet the complaint. And then after review, we must respond to the complaint in writing, and then copy the Attorney General's office on the response. So how our cadence has worked here is that I meet with the public body. I go through the allegations. I remind you of your obligations under the open meeting law. And then town council puts it into a consistent and very dispassionate form that is disseminated to the complainant and is copied to the Attorney General's office. The complainant then gets to determine whether they think our response deserves an additional review by the Attorney General's office, who then waits 30 days and reviews it again. So if recent history has been a guide, this will likely get reviewed by the Attorney General's office, and you may get another open meeting law complaint based upon the same parameters that are here. So let me go through the particulars. So the particulars of this complaint on your June 13th meeting, like I said, was the chairman did not announce that the meeting was being recorded as required by Section 20F of the open meeting law. I think what happens a lot here in town is that boards, commissions say the meetings, all right, let's start the recording, the meeting's being recorded, and then click record. So the recording does not actually capture the chair saying the meeting's been recorded, which is why I said it again out loud, and I'm glad you in your acting chair role said it out loud again, that this meeting's being recorded. So I have changed select board agendas to say open meeting and start recording. So that's something that the chair is triggered to say. So I would encourage this board to have your agendas say start recording as your number one point. So the chair is reminded to say that on camera during the recording each time. And then the second open meeting law alleged violation was that the board did not accept their meeting minutes in a timely manner. So the open meeting law requires that meeting minutes be accepted within 3 meetings or 30 days. So meeting minutes being accepted from January, February, March, and April, May. Well, the April, May ones were fine, or actually the March, April, May ones were fine. It was the January and February ones that were out of date. So we will respond with contextualization about manpower, complexity of minutes, how staff is, there's no dedicated staff. You're all, well, Dan is staff, but Dan's not staff in this capacity. Dan's a volunteer as a town resident. So we'll talk about the unavailability of staff here. And strive to do better in the future. So you've accepted a handful of these minutes now, and I encourage the commission to be cognizant of the 3-meeting deadline with the acceptance of minutes going forward. And then if we can, demonstrate a adherence to that provision of the law in future meetings, that would be beneficial to the town, to the public, and to the Attorney General's office.
Jerry, can I just back you up? So you said approve no more than 3 meetings post from like tonight's meeting or 30 days. So is it one or the other, or what is it? It's
one or the other. So I think we get the benefit of saying 3 meetings. So with the select board, what I've been doing, we had a meeting on June 26th and then July 17th. And on July 17th, I said, here's the June 26th meeting minutes. You can review them now, but we're not going to vote on them. So that's the first meeting. And then we voted on them. We're going to vote on them on August 7th, which is our second meeting. So it is more than 30 days, but it's within 3 meetings. And that's a reasonable approach to voting your minutes. So the fact that the 111 minutes weren't voted on the 1, 2, 3 by 4-1 is the basis of the complaint. So if you can keep to a cadence of having your meeting minutes voted by the 3rd meeting following, then we would be within the context of the law.
I get it. Okay, I agree. Yeah.
And I think just maybe there's some confusion. I am the paid clerk for this board. That's why I'm here. I'm not a voting member.
Oh, okay. That's my fault.
Yeah, the position is just 5 hours a week, and unfortunately, minutes are at the very bottom. Although they are important, I don't want to say they're not. It just unfortunately end up getting into a hole, and some of these meetings end up running 2 hours, 3 hours. It becomes a production.
That's my fault, Dan. Dan does so much. Yeah. Dan does so much around town that I assume he's an official part of everything.
I know.
He is. I know Dan's right up against it. Dan, do you go back and actually review the recordings?
I do, but
the minutes.
Again, to watch a 3-hour meeting in real time, there's my 5 hours for the week gone.
Right. No, I get it.
So it's just more of an, unfortunately, once we get into the summer, I have to focus on parks and parks only. And I think this time around, we got way behind with the winter minutes, which normally I usually have caught up.
Yeah.
And then now, we're talking about later, like we have to do the water billing, so I have to go read the meters. That's going to use up, that whole process will use up about 2 weeks worth of time.
Right.
I will volunteer.
Sorry, these minutes.
Go ahead, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I apologize. Not being in the same room makes that difficult. Didn't mean to cut you off, Dan. I will volunteer my office through the executive assistant for the select board, Katie Moxham, who will be able to assist with minutes should you want some kind of procedural help. And we've been working with kind of the senior tax program as well to clean up a little bit of our backlog from the select board side. So I don't want you to feel alone in this, and I don't want you to feel like you need to use all 5 of your hours on minute generation and these meetings. So if you need some help, reach out and we're happy to help.
Jeremy, I have another question, right? Are we the only board that's in violation of any of the open meeting laws, or is it several other boards in town?
Yeah, not even close. So it's in just the past I've only been here, less than a month. So the Board of Assessors, the Planning Board, the Select Board, and the Water Commission have all been in receipt of similar complaints, largely founded, some unfounded, but largely things like this, which were unintentional violations, which did not change the outcome of votes, which makes me feel sound about the intent of our public boards and commissions, but nonetheless were violations of the open meeting law and need to be addressed and corrected. Yeah.
I just wish somebody had contacted Dan or somebody to kind of give us a heads up on this. So they filed a complaint. Did they file a complaint?
Well, I did forward you all the complaint when it was filed.
Right, yeah.
That was the first notice we had of it. It was sent right to all 3 of you.
Right, yeah. Okay.
I think initially, I think initially it was sent, I think the conversation started with Kevin, and then Kevin was not responding, which we now understand that he's out. But I believe at some point it was sent to everyone.
Okay. Well, we just need to right the ship, that's all. So, okay. So what's our plan going forward then? How many sets of minutes have we got left here?
Well, so that's what I was about to say. So I mean, to be fully honest with you, the remaining minutes, I'll see what I can get done, but it's likely that there's not gonna have a lot of time to work on stuff before the end of August. Because there's a bunch of stuff with Blue Water happening, and I've got to do the water billing. So we can pick which of those that, I mean, unless there's some, the full recordings of these meetings are posted online. And if anyone were to request a copy of the notes, they would be provided within the timeline provided. We can provide a full transcript.
Right, but it's
So
not.
I will do my best to work on them. It's these meetings in the middle, 321 and 4-1. Those were those big, huge discussions we had on the water contract. Those are gonna take some time to get through everything.
I understand, yeah, so.
And separate out the executive and the public discussion that we had.
Okay. I was understood if we could, even if we can at least
So
do 2
I would
at our
say,
next meeting.
yeah, I would say by our, hopefully by the September 5th meeting, unless we need to meet sooner, the goal will be to have the majority of these done.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
We're gonna meet once a month, so.
Yeah, and then Jeremy said you could provide somebody maybe to help Dan a little bit, to help put this together, somebody from the town administrator's office or?
Yeah, definitely. So we, the select board has a executive assistant who prepares the minutes for the select board meeting. And she's, she started the same day as me, so she doesn't have a long track record, but she's quite good at her job. And then we've got someone from the senior tax program going through some older minutes for us and some other committees. So it's probably not an immediate help, but prior to your September meeting, we can likely provide some sort of administrative help to get the kind of either bare bones or framework of your minutes together. And I can work with Dan kind of outside the meeting process, right? Just as staff to staff to get this done.
I know it'd be really hard to ask somebody who's never attended our meetings to help out with it, but like you said, at least, maybe look at a video and kind of highlight some bullets or something like that, and we can kind of fill it in, or Dan can fill it in, and then ultimately we go and make some edits as we see fit. So, okay. Good. All right. Any other questions on the complaint?
So I just want to kind of wrap it up and put a bow on it. So this satisfies our obligation under the board being notified and discussing it in an open meeting. And then I will provide context to town council, who will then provide an official response to the complainant and copy the Attorney General's office. And I will make sure that gets forwarded to Dan to disseminate to the committee.
All right, but the official response has to come from the board, right? Or is it something that you're?
It does not. The board has to be aware and discuss the complaint, and then we as a town, we as a town respond. And in order to, we're not lawyers, and this is statute. I'm not a lawyer, and to make sure we don't,
continue to
eat our
violate.
own words or put our own foot in our mouth or something, we have town council help out and make sure that our responses are consistent across all responses.
I understand. Okay. All right, very good. Yeah, nothing else to add to that?
No.
Okay. All right, Jeremy, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And, you know, like I said, I don't think this was, you know, wanton disregard or this was a disrespect for the public process. I think this was, you know, you're placed in a difficult spot and you all are doing great work and the best you can. And we'll remedy this going forward and we'll get meeting minutes accepted in a reasonable time. And I thank you all for your service to the town.
Very good. All right, Jeremy. You going to stay on board with us right now for the discussion with the water study project?
We can have a brief chat about the water study if you don't have to run out.
Yeah, sure. Let me pull it up. I don't have it immediate.
And I can fill you in what little bit I know right now. There's not a whole lot of major updates. They have started the process of filing, I believe, a notice of intent, which is for the
To the conservation.
the more involved testing for the well site.
Right.
And I believe they had a hearing, and I think Dylan said it was continued.
Correct. So they were continued to the 8/8 meeting. None of the items that were requested were major, and Woodard and Kern anticipates receiving approval to move forward based upon the outcome and the commentary for the first meeting. And they're working on scheduling the survey for the abutting property on Deer Hill Drive, and that'll be completed in the next few weeks.
Okay.
They've also submitted a one-stop grant application at the beginning of June for what would be phase 4 of the project, which would be about $430,000 in grant money. I have a draft proposal of that here. Sorry, I just got this afternoon, so I'm kind of reading as I'm reading it to you. So the summary of the phase 4 work is a continuation of the permitting and the preliminary final design of the drinking water source, treatment, storage, and distribution system. And Woodard and Kern shared with me their shared point, their shared drive place. So I am going to digest this a little bit more and provide an update to Select Board as part of my town administrator report next Wednesday. So I can disseminate that kind of more detailed and synthesized report to this commission, or you can watch next Wednesday for my town administrator report if you want to see it in real time.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. So where are we with as far as expenses go in regard to what we have already, with the grant money that's available?
So phase 1 and phase 2 are completely expended. Those contracts are 100% closed out. Phase 3, which Select Board just approved the contract, Select Board signed the contract on July 17th. Woodard and Kern just started to move forward. That is funded through both One Stop and an ARPA allocation from the town. We have yet to receive a invoice or any sort of progress payment on that. So we have not expended phase 3 at all, but phase 1 and 2 are completely expended.
Okay, but I know they've been doing work, so there's accumulated expense that we just haven't received an invoice for. Right?
Correct. They typically bill for work through the end of the month on like a probably 2-week lag. So maybe in the middle of August, middle to end of August, we should expect to receive their July billing, which, like I said, won't be much because they didn't get a signed contract until July 20th, give or take.
Right. Okay, so I know they wanted to go back out to the site and do some more work out there, but obviously they're waiting on their.
Yeah, my understanding is this now is the order of conditions to allow them to do the more serious multi-day pumping test to truly determine the capacities and all the stuff.
Right. They're doing
Versus
a prolonged pumping test for between 6 and 15 days. And they need to do that in a dry period, right? You don't want to do it after it rains where you're artificially inflating the water table or anything.
Right.
So they're looking towards the end of September, beginning of October to do those prolonged pumping tests on the northern part of the property where the first, I think it was 6 test wells were promising for the project.
Okay.
And I think it's worth noting, I guess since Kevin isn't here, I guess if we could figure out going forward, like what the process will be to kind of communicate everything with regards to this project. I think there's been some tension where sometimes things go to the select board, sometimes things go to water, sometimes we're relying on other, like, it just seems like sometimes people are out of the loop, so if there's gonna be a big presentation, I think we should just be mindful to invite both boards. You know, like an update is one thing, but I think in the past there were items placed on select board agendas with no notice to water, and there was a lot of friction. I know.
Yes, that has happened. I know,
I think having somebody full-time in place, I think is huge and will solve a big chunk of those problems.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
I've attended a lot of meetings separate from
Yeah.
our board of water commissioners meetings. So that's been very helpful, but it's mostly been Kevin that's felt kind of out of the chair.
Yeah, like I think and it sounds like if you're in the loop, like if you're able to, maybe not attend, but provide us some sort of update for each meeting, I think that would help a lot.
Absolutely.
I think Kevin just felt frustrated because it seemed like things were just happening and we didn't know, so like now you just answered all those questions about money that weren't getting answered before.
Kevin's biggest problem was the authorization of spending, and just felt like the board of the select board were kind of bypassing the water commission.
Yeah.
Authorization for one of the things that they do. The study.
Like I think if there's big decisions to be made, we should just be mindful to get everybody in the room together.
Right.
yeah, that's definitely fair. And I just want to make sure, like, you know, I'm not sure on the funding on phase 1 and phase 2, but phase 3, you know, there's no local taxpayer dollars in this. It is state grant and federal funding, which is excellent, right there. Because I want to be really cognizant that, you know, folks who would not be beneficial users of an eventual municipal water system in Mendon are not currently paying for the study to do this, right? It is not on the back of the taxpayers who wouldn't eventually benefit. They're not the ones who are paying for this.
Right, yeah, that's a good thing, but obviously that'll change as we progress further down the road, depending on how we do with the pump test and stuff like that. But
yeah, it's my intent that the general taxpayer will shoulder 0 to a minimum burden for this enterprise-based system, and that eventual costs will be borne by ratepayers and those who have the beneficial use of the system.
right, the only unfortunate thing with that is, what have we got, 153 connections or something like that? Approximately. So it's not like you've got a big number of homes in order to spread that cost. So, you know, looking at the few people that are connected onto the system, and then we're talking about a multi-million-dollar project in order, you know, because we're developing pretty much an entire water system. You know, you're developing a source, you're going to have to construct an infrastructure and a water tank, multi-million-dollar operation. You're not going to be able to divide that amongst 152 homes. So, you know, I know we're going to be looking at grant money. There's going to have to be some other things that are going to have to be thought of. But, you know, I'm getting way ahead of this whole thing right now, too. But
yeah, when I brought that up to Woodard and Kern, when we talked about the, you know, that's kind of the funding piece, and you can be creative on the financing piece to make that work. But if we're getting to that level of question, that meant we had a lot of successes between now and then. And so we're trying to tackle hurdles as we see them. But I'm confident we can approximate that outcome.
so, yeah, here's the other thing, Jeremy, I don't know if you're aware of it too. The rates, the water rates that the residents are paid that are connected onto the public water supply are probably amongst the highest in the state.
They're exorbitant. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. So you're aware of that. So
Yeah.
just so mindful. We're talking about who's going to pay for this
I
project.
think that came up at the last meeting, is trying to prioritize the existing customers' connection way to get off of Hopedale and hopefully
Correct.
find some rate relief.
Yeah.
Which I
Absolutely.
think maybe was not the recommendation of the initial study.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Um,
All right, good. All right, I don't think there's anything else to discuss on item 5, right? I think we're good. We're caught up. Alan, anything else? Any thoughts?
It's 23 people, yeah.
Yeah, it's item 6. Okay, sure. Okay, item 6. Dan, you want to give us an update on item 6?
Yeah, so I
All
have a
right,
whole,
if that's all you have for me,
Yeah.
gentlemen, I'm going to drop off now.
It
We'll
was nice to
respond.
meet you.
Nice to meet you all as well, and we'll respond to that open meeting law complaint, and make sure you all get a copy. And anytime the select board discusses the Woodard and Curran water study, we'll make sure the board's aware, the commission's aware.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, Jeremy. Have
All right,
a good
thank
night.
you very much. Enjoy your evening. Bye.
yeah, so I have a whole list of things. So 23 Cape Road is the proposed development behind Gasco for some sort of warehouse. I know I talked to them a few times. I've had a few meetings with them. They are pretty much ready to start construction. So I have a list of, let me just go through the list of things.
You don't have another agenda, do you?
I do.
Because
So
I brought one of the Alan was going to help one. Sorry, Alan.
and then I'll share this plan in a second. So I think the first question is, we have a draft easement for them, and I just sent out the final update. I'm wondering if you're comfortable approving this pending council's final review, so that they're not waiting another month. Basically what the discussion with council is that they want, there's an existing easement that has some language that it can be moved, but it sounds like the best course of action is to record a new easement with plans showing the new water line, and then when that is done, record an abandonment of the old easement. And she said that way, if you do this and they don't build it, you're protected.
Conceptually, I don't have an issue with it. I don't think Alan would either, but ultimately, we don't want to approve anything without it first being reviewed by
Right.
council.
So this revision is based on her comments. We are still waiting for them to send over the final legal description and map of the actual easement,
Yeah,
but it's just the plans we've been looking at, just cleaned up to show.
yeah. So, obviously, we're not going to be able to take a vote on it yet until.
Yeah, so that's fine too. There might be an ask for us to have a very brief meeting to vote on that easement, because I think, whether they're comfortable starting construction. They want to start construction like next week.
Okay.
On stuff. They've already done some excavations and exploration. And I can run you through what they're hoping to do here.
Okay. You got a map, you can put it up.
Yeah, I have a couple maps. Hang on. This might not be the full property.
How have you been? I said, how have you been?
I can't,
I said, how have you been?
all right, I'm aim to be healthy.
Oh, God, what?
My wife is still in rehab, but getting a little better.
Yeah, good.
Just supposed to,
Still being
the
recorded.
rehab facility she's in is the one that the WBCI team is investigating,
Oh, yeah.
but the state has stepped in and provided more money at least.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Oh, geez.
Alright, so unfortunately, this is gonna be hard to see because it's absolutely.
You know what? It's fine. I'm gonna have to get up. Yeah, I know.
Well, there's some changes, so I can walk you
I
through.
think, let me see if I can print this.
Yeah.
I think I do.
So basically, what they're looking to do is at the top of the property, which is right where my cursor is, up here, they want to cut in a T with valves.
I don't have the whole thing.
There's like 37 pages of it. I really wanted like a
Okay.
plan without all the BS and just the
So
water
I'm
line.
just gonna climb up here and look. All right, so we're looking at, okay, so they're gonna run the water line over here.
Well, so yeah, this, and then there's a revision to this, which I'll share in a minute.
Yeah.
but It's trivial. So
Now,
basically,
I don't know if you can see that, Alan, but.
let me pull up the, because it's, if I can find what I
Okay.
sent. you.
On my way.
There you go.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't even, I took a picture. So basically, the line runs down Witten Road. They want to cut in 2 T-valves on both ends.
Yeah.
That way, they can do a shutdown, put the valves in, get all set, turn the water back on, the old water main, and build all their new stuff. Then turn everything back on. So I had a meeting with them today, actually, and they kind of went through like a phase of what they want to do here, so I mean, I don't know if you want me to run you through this, or,
So what are they, so they're gonna cut in a T, but they're gonna put a couple of gate valves so we're able to isolate and
right, so
and redirect the
basically they
water.
want to shut the water down, put a T on, and turn it right back on.
Yeah,
But then have a set where they can build their new section,
I get
and
it.
then
One
fill it,
thing
chlorinate it.
Occurs to me, and I take it that part of the Cape Road is on the right. And so they're fairly far back on the property. And I take it that the
Here.
water line running up above is, the road, the water line that's buried under the other road, whose name I've forgotten.
Yeah, so that's part, they have to remove all of that old asbestos.
What happened?
I'm trying to find a satellite view, because I think this is
Okay.
not helpful.
Now, my
Not really.
question is, do they have a problem with the wetland?
So they've already done all their conservation, they have an existing order of conditions to do this project. They basically have all their approvals. They're basically ready, they've already put shovels in the ground.
Okay,
So they bought this back lot, I should have done one with lot lines. Hang on there.
No, that's fine, I get it. So they're gonna tap off of Cape Road.
So, yeah, it's existing though, they're not, hang on, let me pull this up. This is the wrong one, sorry. I need one with a satellite view. Oh. Come on,
You zoom in anymore?
yeah, I'm not,
There you
I
go.
need it to load. So this, it's harder to see, this back property that's 23,
Yeah,
this is the property that they own. So the water line right now goes right down this Witten Road.
all right,
They're touching it down here.
okay.
And actually,
actually it runs down the.
It runs right through, it ties in, right, Dan? This is, you and I walked this, so,
yeah.
I was down there with you.
I can draw on it.
yeah. And I remember there might even be a hydrant or something there, and, okay, why don't we keep losing that?
Because I'm trying to change the view to show you things.
Okay.
Because I can do this.
All right, so they wanna cut it where the proposed cul-de-sac's gonna be or something?
They're gonna do this. Oh, if I could get this to cooperate. Come on.
Mhm.
They're gonna, yeah, so this, somewhere here, they're gonna basically cut it right here,
Yeah,
cut it right here, do a bypass that goes around the backside. And
Okay.
That's tiny.
yeah, okay,
And build the new system. So what they've done so far is in the middle here, there's an old valve that's for this line that goes up Terry Lane.
yeah,
They dug it up and verified that it is 8-inch asbestos cement. They also dug up at the back here and found the transition, the PVC for Talbot Farm.
yeah,
They were questioning whether we would be okay with allowing PVC. I know previously we had said we wanted ductile iron, but
Yeah.
now it sounds like they have all the ductile iron and they want to just stick with that.
okay, that's even better for us, yeah.
Um,
So what are they running, 8-inch pipe, 8-inch ductile
I
iron
believe
pipe?
it's 8-inch. I will verify that, but let me, yeah, I'm gonna end this again. Let me read through now what they sent me. And then this is another change. Let me share this. On the back of the property. I just want to read if this is correct. They want to move the water line slightly over here. I think this dark blue line.
Yeah,
So it's out, I guess there's a big retaining wall, and if they put it where it was supposed to go under the road, it would be under like 10 feet of cover.
you don't want
But if
that.
they do it out here, it's still within the disturbance zone of the project, and it's much easier to like access.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And I think he showed, it's cut off. I think,
So this building is gonna go right over where the existing water main cuts right
right,
through.
that's the problem, is they don't want to.
Yeah, I get it, okay,
It's actually, you can just barely see it where my cursor is.
yeah,
So basically on the rear of the property, they're gonna cut into the new PVC pipe, or the old PVC pipe and start new. On the top side, they're gonna basically cut the asbestos off at the termination of the property line. So there will still be asbestos further up Witten Road,
right.
but a huge chunk of it's being removed.
And this is a dead end, right, where it goes down and it cuts back down on Route 140?
No.
It doesn't loop, does it loop
Let me share the
around
map.
over there?
No, let me share the map. Hang on. actually, that's not the good map. Sorry. Give me a minute. So this horrible abomination is the, maybe not actually, sorry, that maybe isn't the best map. Find the one that actually shows. the-
Actually, the other one you had of,
This is
the GIS map was okay, okay.
So this,
Okay, yes, that's a really, actually a really good map. And so their project is right here, right?
correct.
Oh, it's all AC pipe, I thought it was plastic.
No, Talbot is plastic.
I got you, okay.
Because, so that's what I, as far as I can tell, they installed this top section of the system to about Bates Street. And maybe like where it says this, and even though it says 6, it's 8-inch AC. Then they extended down Bates and 140, that's 6-inch AC. This line was done down Witten Road in the 70s for some sort of development. They put all the connections in the ground and everything and then never built it. Then it sat. Rosenfeld bought it or owned it.
Yeah.
And they built this whole Talbot Farm subdivision and they did PVC. And somewhere I can't find it again. There was a note about trying to save money.
Yeah.
I thought the water main went further down
No.
Harper Ave though, it doesn't?
It goes down over here on the stoplight.
Oh,
So it doesn't loop, it does not loop, it's
No,
dead
that's
end.
our problem. And then the proposed new meter pit is over here
I got you, okay,
at
all right,
this Plains Road, Hartford Ave.
all right, all right,
Right.
all right, this is huge. All right, so
That's our thing.
what are they proposing now? Because I was gonna say,
So let me, so what they want to do,
could you show it on a piece of paper? What I was gonna suggest that they do, just put the pipe in and do the connections right at the very last minute.
yeah, so let me read through their sequence, what they came up with.
Okay,
So on August 7th, so hopefully we're gonna get the water bills out, because that's another thing that's been dragging on.
yeah,
And as part of that, we're gonna need to include a notice to some customers that there's gonna be disruptions to water service on a few of these days. So on August 7th, they wanna go out at 10 AM. They already went, and so at the top of Witten Road is a valve that serves that line.
Yeah.
They actually went out and cleaned it all out and put a wrench on it and it does turn. They didn't try to close it all the way, but they gave it like 2 turns. So on the 7th, they'd like to go out and attempt to close that valve and verify that it actually closes, which means that the people on the back end of the system will lose water for about 20 minutes.
right,
Water pressure, won't lose all their water, or just, shut it off. So
Yeah.
assuming that's good, they'd like to schedule on August 19th, a shutdown from 10 AM to 2 PM to do the T valve just at the rear of the site where the PVC is.
okay,
Then they're gonna spend the week building the whole bypass up to the top.
yeah,
And then on the 26th, they wanna do a second shutdown to do the second T. And then transition everything over. The issue they're running into is there's a lot of complications with the asbestos mitigation, like just cutting in that T requires all the specialists to come out. So I think they wanna start.
Start with this, please,
That's big, yeah, but they gotta pay people to.
Yeah,
So
I
they're
got it.
trying to figure out what works best for them. So the goal during the 19th is to build that line all the way up.
Yeah.
What did he say? Pierce to flush, test and chlorinate, Mendon to inspect. And then the second shutdown is to just do that final tie-in and turn it on. And then they can remove the old line at their leisure.
Okay.
Um,
What are they gonna put at the gates where they're gonna tie in? Did they tie in?
What do you mean, like, tie
Gate
in?
valves, so,
I think so I think that's the question, if, we need to, if it's worth having, setting up a meeting with you or giving them specifics, I think, they're just gonna put in, if it's 8-inch line, they're gonna put an 8-inch valve if we have.
yeah, any valves, but how many are they gonna do? So you're gonna have a T, you're gonna put 3 gates in, or you're gonna do?
I think if I were them, I don't know if this has some.
I know, you're wasting a couple of gate valves, but this is what I would say, Dan.
Hang on, I can find something to like that.
Here's your just pipe going through, a 5-10.
Right.
Right? I almost think.
So where's the
I know they're not
top,
gonna-
where's the top and the bottom?
They're not gonna, this is the bottom.
Okay. So that's what they're planning to do. And there's already a valve here. On
Yeah.
Talbot, But,
Over in Talbot Farm area, right, and then same thing over here,
so I believe that's their plan.
but, yeah, and then, so,
Now,
No, they
the,
need a valve here too, so they can
they
have,
gotta have a valve there, either that or they're gonna come back and end cap it.
I don't think they care about.
Okay, great, okay, you gotta need a valve in, you gotta need a valve.
Friendship on the Club Road is actually about here.
Right, and that's getting
And
completely demolished. Once they shut this off, they'll just pull all that. They've already done some work on the storm drains and exposed it.
This is all 140 here.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So actually, the valve they don't necessarily need is this valve. Just do a valve here and a valve here and have the T pressurized.
Well, you got an old gate. Yeah, no, you're right.
And then
And there
in
is
the
a-
future, this is the valve.
There is a valve.
This valve is
right-
always
right
off.
next to the T pretty much.
Right.
Right, this is the old valve that,
Yeah.
the one big unknown, if that valve doesn't work, we're gonna have to shut the whole system down and do some project.
So is it, can you go back to where it shows the pipe and what the material is? Because I'd like to get all this AC pipe out of here, go all the way up to 140, make it all new pipe.
So I think at this point, we would need to hire and do it ourselves. I think that's out, so they don't own that property.
Oh, they don't own that.
No, so they bought.
So, you bring that up again, show me, all right, yeah,
Too many things open.
yeah.
They own, the limit of what they own is like where this, I wouldn't even trust this cul-de-sac, but somewhere where this line is, where my cursor
I
is.
got you, okay.
That's where the property line terminates.
Okay, so who owns that water main up there then? That's
So
owned
we have
by,
an easement,
that's owned by the district, that's owned by the town.
and I believe Witten Road is not an accepted road, I don't believe.
No, it
So
isn't.
I believe it's owned probably by some, we'd have to do the deed.
So it's privately owned,
I think this showing it as a right of way is probably not correct,
yeah.
but we'd have to
I
do
know.
some research.
I think it's owned by the original developer, but I'm not sure.
I mean, unfortunately, I think,
Well, somebody, that easement's recorded,
right, that's the
Under
easement that we're
somebody's name.
modifying. It's the town of Mendon. Rosenfeld granted to the town of Mendon, the easement.
okay,
I don't know who owns that road. We'd have to go dig through all the records and talk to highway.
okay.
But I don't think it's an accepted road. Maybe it is.
But if it's an easement, then
Yeah.
then we own it. Well, we own the right of way, right?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
no, we own the,
We own an easement for the
we have an easement for
utility,
the
it's a
water.
utility easement.
Right, correct.
Yeah, so by right, because we own the easement, we could make him go all the way up to 140.
I think at
I
this
don't-
point, that ship sailed a year ago when this was before planning board. It was the time to have all those.
The only reason why I'm saying that, Dan.
I agree with you. I would
It's
like to
old
see it all.
AC pipe. Old AC pipe, if it's in the ground for a long period of time, you're gonna have main breaks.
Yeah,
You know, now's an opportunity to get it replaced on somebody else's dime.
yeah, I just,
But-
unfortunately, I think
You-
that needed to have been done when this was before planning board and
So is planning board already accepted the
this is
plans
long
as
done.
is?
They've got, it's order of conditions, site plan review, they've got shovels in the ground,
So he's ready.
they've got a building permit.
Okay, all right, so you're right, I agree with you, it's probably too late to go back. Because what I would have done, I would have said, yeah, if you want to do this, you're gonna have to replace this whole line all the way down from 140, all the way down to where it, where it goes to the woods.
I mean, I do,
Yeah.
pending all those other discussions we had, I do think they're open to other work on Plains Road
Yeah.
perhaps that
But
ties
that's
up.
what they need to do. They need
Yeah.
to cut in 3-gate intersection, three-gate,
Yeah, no.
three-gate cluster at every point where they're gonna tie in. Now granted, I know they're gonna eliminate this line down the road,
Yeah,
and,
but I guess the question is, do we definitely want this third gate that serves no purpose?
Well, it turns out that the scale is rotten, but
Yeah,
it is, yeah.
this is Talbot Farm Road.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, correct,
The gate here, and the gate here,
right,
and another gate,
that's the
fire
hydrant.
hydrant that goes here.
Well, what is this pipe though? Because you want to be able to isolate this pipe. You're right, you don't really need this gate here.
Because you can isolate it from here,
You're right.
so at least they don't need the outer gates, but they need the two inner ones. I mean, it's up to them what they,
Well, no, it's up to us. They want it,
well, no, if we want it, if
Yeah.
we don't, then but if we just want them all three, we need to tell
I
them,
tell people all the time, look, if you want to work,
yeah,
if you want to, you're tying into our water main. You're tying into our water system. This is what we're requiring. They don't like it, too bad.
yeah.
And they're gonna, because ultimately, they don't want to mess with the water department. So, no, you're right. So,
I guess you tell me.
so
what you
2 gates per
want.
cluster. I'm with you, 2 gates per cluster. You gotta do the 2 gates per cluster.
Yeah. But I think, the two inner ones, so they can shut off this old line and they can feed this gate is redundant, because
But the thing is though, Dan, when they go to move this line, no, you gotta do that gate, because when they go to do this
no,
line,
keep this one. Shut it off right here,
okay, eliminate this one,
and
yes.
eliminate, that one. But
Yeah, I got
that's what I'm saying, keep the two, these two are the ones they need.
Okay.
Unless we really think they need those, I don't know. I defer to you.
I mean, you know,
No, you don't need it.
this piece of pipe is, I don't know, 50 feet long, maybe 80.
The good news is the
Yeah.
pipe that crosses the wet, so that's what goes the wet.
But like you say,
that's
but you could isolate it here.
Yeah, and then there'll be, I haven't had time to go through it, there's gonna be new hydrants, some there, some ours.
Okay.
I think we want their hydrants painted a different color, so it's obvious.
Right.
And
What do you mean, is he saying it's gonna be private hydrants?
they're gonna, part of their project, they're gonna have a few hydrants off of their system that are not tied in, like around the whole building,
Oh, it's on a booster system. or something.
Right.
Yeah. I guess.
versus our, at a couple places that'll be nearby.
So it's gotta be a different color, and actually, it should have some labeling on it too.
So let me,
Pressurized system, so,
we
so,
will share this.
so the fire department knows.
It's kind of hard to tell on this, these plans are huge, but like this hydrant up here, for example, that's on their system.
Okay,
And this one here, so like coming from the street, you're gonna have the water main, a public hydrant, their tank. Then you're coming down to this cul-de-sac, a second public hydrant,
yeah,
here's a third public hydrant. I think this hydrant in the corner is their hydrant, it's hard to tell in these plans.
right.
And I think we might have one more in the back, these plans are so cluttered, it's not very
Well,
hard
there's
to tell.
currently a hydrant at,
There's,
well,
Here,
where
there's
the
five.
road ends more or less.
this is what I've tried to figure out, and this kind of ties into the next conversation. Hang on, where's
When's
this?
our meeting with them? You already scheduled it.
So they had a call today,
Oh,
just to discuss the sequencing.
Okay,
But if you want to meet with them, we should set up a meeting with them. So I figured this out, Alan, for the hydrants. So coming from the top, you've got the hydrant at Witten Road that works, but it leaks. This hydrant does not work. I believe it's off at the valve. There's two more hydrants that don't work that are in the woods. And then the hydrant at the bottom works, but again, has no valve because I think it's buried. And this isn't sharing when I wanted it to, so that doesn't help.
okay,
Sorry.
Well,
all
the
right.
Hang on,
comment is that the original
this.
plan, in fact, I think the original construction had a hydrant or maybe two hydrants on the side road. And
Yeah.
they both got ripped out some, who knows when.
Yeah, that was, they've been trying to find all that. Apparently they didn't realize that water main goes all the way down that Terry Lane. They thought it was a stub.
Really?
So
Yeah,
that's,
but it's all AC pipe anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, that hydrant with a star on above got ripped out some years ago.
Yeah,
um,
boy, that's a lot of pipe to mitigate.
I believe the valve for the hydrant is still there.
Well,
that-
you and I seen the key valves and hydrants when we walked down there.
all I've ever been able to find, so this hydrant at the top, at Gasco there, whatever, has it's right there, it has a valve clear as day.
Yeah,
These hydrants in the middle have no valves. There's a single valve right at this intersection of Terry and Witten. That's the stub for Terry. They dug it up to confirm it.
okay,
I did more digging. There should be a valve at the bottom of this hill somewhere. It was referenced on one of the tie cards. I don't know if they'll ever find it, but they dug up at the bottom of this current cul-de-sac. I don't know if you can even see my cursor, like over here.
yeah,
And they found the transition to PVC.
yeah, that's good, we wanna get all that AC.
And that's
pipe.
right,
That's
Because
good.
I think down there, they're gonna
Is
just,
that where he's gonna put his teeth?
yeah, they're gonna cut into the PVC so they don't touch the AC. Because apparently every time they touch AC, they have to do a notification to DEP and a whole process.
Yeah,
And they're eager to get this done, so I think they're gonna do that one and build everything new. I think the question is, so I mean, it sounds like you might be the one if we wanna inspect things. We'll
Yeah.
have to coordinate that, it would be during that week of the 19th.
yeah, I could even, discuss it with
Somebody's
virtually, or
going.
whatever, just,
You know, I mean, the hydrant W1, they leaked it away. That
Well,
was all redone
Yeah.
3-4 years ago.
yep, and I need to follow up with Hydrotech, it got lost in the shuffle, but we need to have them fix that hydrant and one other one,
okay,
for sure, I haven't had the time to deal with it.
okay.
But,
All right, well, you and I talked about the hydrostatic test and the chlorination.
And
This is the one that
yeah, so they're
use
gonna,
chlorine tablets. But ultimately, it's gonna pass a bacteria test, or.
yeah, and that was what they had said today, I think this contractor they're working with is going to,
Yeah.
will do all that and basically verify it, and so I said, we wanna see the results.
Yeah, we gotta you should be there, or have
The
somebody.
hydrant work,
Right,
W5,
that's-
I've never been able to
Yeah.
find. But
We want to make sure that somebody's there to inspect the hydrostatic test that they're going to do the pressure test.
All right, so we should tell them, let me make a list of these.
Yeah.
I mean, I did-
So we need to be there, they need to schedule it with us to make sure that you're available,
Yeah,
or
I
somebody
think-
that you assign.
Yeah. it
So
would-
we absolutely want to be there, because
It would either need to be you or someone, I mean, I don't know what I'm looking at, so, I mean, I have to just stand there, but,
yeah, it's real easy. But yeah, they're gonna jack it up too. Every town's a little bit different. It's been my practice to do 200 pounds. Some people do it 1.5 times static pressure.
so we want to inspect the hydrostatic testing, see
Yeah,
it's 200 pounds.
Yeah, we want a pressure test up to 200 pounds. They gotta hold 200 pounds for 30 minutes. Okay, once it passes, it's called a hydrostatic test.
Yeah,
Once it passes that test, then they're gonna chlorinate the line, but you're saying they're gonna put chlorine tablets in, and that's fine. But the thing is, so you let the chlorine sit for a day, and you're gonna flush the chlorine out. They should be dechlorinated in water before they dump in the wetlands. So, they should
and I
not,
think they were saying there'll be the new hydrants, they'll be able to work off the new hydrants and flush it out from there.
yeah, so, but they shouldn't be just taking water that's chlorinated, especially if it's heavily chlorinated, and dumping that into the wetlands, because what's gonna happen, you're gonna kill a lot of things. You don't want to do that. So they need to dechlorinate the main as they're doing this. And they're gonna be like, well, not fine, but
It's a silly
Well, I
question.
mean, these seem
They're
like,
gonna know.
this isn't even like somebody local, this is a legit
yeah,
hydrant.
they're gonna know,
These are,
because a lot of towns require that, so you have to dechlorinate the line as you're flushing all the chlorine out. And then ultimately, once all the chlorine's been flushed out, then you're gonna grab a sample. They're gonna grab 2 bacteria samples and run into a local lab, a certified lab. So we want test results for both the hydrostatic test, the hydrostatic pressure test, and a clean bacteria test.
right,
on the
so
water
you-
main. Once we get the clean bacteria, the coliform test back, then we can turn the water main on. But until then, it doesn't go on.
Well, that's usually something they can do right on site, right?
Oh, yeah, no
Yeah.
question.
So they just do all that.
And what they're gonna do, they're gonna hire a third party. They're gonna hire a third party, they're gonna hire like that kid from Hydrotech, and there's other people too. Hydrotech will come in, pressure test the main from, and it'll chlorinate the line or take the bacteria test from after they're done.
Yeah,
So the only thing with, he had asked about the tablets. He's running a risk because ultimately, if it doesn't pass bacteria test, you're gonna have to go back, dig up the main, tap the main so you can inject chlorine into the line, rechlorinate the line. That's the only, but it's their risk because ultimately we just care about a clean bacteria test at the end of it. And if you wanna be there, sampling the line, don't trust them to do it. Because here's what a lot of contractors will do. A contractor will go get a sample from their own house
yeah.
and say, oh, it came from the water main. You wanna know that it came from that water main, before we go turning it on, because ultimately, and I've seen this too. If they take a couple of days to put the pipe in, sometimes these pipe projects, these water main projects take days. And if they don't cover the pipe properly, I've had instances where an animal climbs in and dies. Sometimes, you buy a pipe that's been sitting in somebody's, warehouse or a storage yard forever. You don't know what's climbed in that pipe.
Yeah.
And ultimately, so when they go to chlorinate the line, sometimes it takes a lot of chlorine in order to kill bacteria that's in there. That's why you want to make sure. Otherwise, you're gonna make people sick.
Yeah, well, so they're doing, so
That would be very
the
important.
first thing on the 19th, I'm gonna have fairly limited availability. I told them, like, I can't be there, I'll be by phone only. They seem to be more than confident, I don't need to be there. On the 26th,
Of course,
though,
no, we want to have somebody there.
well, so the
So what day is the 19th? That's
the
on
19th is a
Monday.
Monday, that's when they wanna do the first tee at the bottom.
Oh, God, on that day.
I'm gone those 2 days, I mean, I'm around, but remotely. So we could ask them to cut the tee in and leave it exposed. And we wanna inspect it before they bury it all, it's not like it's gonna freeze,
Yeah. You got any connections over Upton?
not really. I mean, or we can call it whitewater and but then somebody's gonna be ready.
For calling over there, have somebody just come down and work with them and just helping out to come down and inspect.
I mean, if you have a reference to somebody that we could pay them, like, some sort of,
Let's sneak over here, I don't know, let me find it.
figure out, yeah.
Yeah, the water superintendent that worked me over there, he's gone, but I got other connections over there.
The
Yeah,
26th, I have more of it, then we're closed for the summer, I'm around.
I could be here, I could probably be here for the hydrostatic test, the pressure.
Well, that'll be around the 26th, and that assumes everything, this assumes everything goes to plan. It gives them a week to build everything. You know, they have all the parts, and then on the 26th, you know, if we find out on the 7th this valve is no good, then we need to maybe, because we're gonna have to shut the whole system down, that's gonna suck.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like, so, you know, you kind of want
So you could
to,
wait.
you kind of want to spot check them as they're putting pipe in the ground too. Because, if
Well, so
shady contractors are gonna do what they can to get away with stuff.
We need to figure out, because I don't,
You want to make sure the water main's down at least 4 feet, because it could be below the frost. You want to make sure the bends, they got thrust blocks behind the bends. Even though they're using the restraint glands, you want to make sure that you got something, because the pipe will move with it, especially with
I
pressure.
mean, is that something you can do, or do we need to contract somebody to do these inspections? That's the question. I mean, if you're
Is
that,
there a chance you can just like pop in, you know, just pop in?
I can, for sure, I just,
Either that, you can tell them, you say,
you know.
you know what, I want to leave all the bends open.
Or we could say, well, I think that would be better, if we could say like, hey, you know, you're gonna do this work the week of the 19th, can we come down on like Wednesday?
See, I say, don't bury any bend, I want to come down and see
Yeah.
the bends.
And
You
then
know,
if
because
you, especially
you
if
don't have to be
you're,
there for the straight pipe, but you want to see where the bends are. And then ultimately, the thrust block, so here's a bend right here. So they're probably, that's gonna be like that. And they use these things called restraint glands.
that's what, yeah, he was talking a little bit.
And I'm sure,
having to get
but
the
we
parts.
still, so
Right,
all your force though, you wanna have a thrust block that goes all the way back to the virgin ground. You follow me? So
Yeah.
a thrust block, and so, you know, he's gonna have a stretch. So all the way to the back of the trench, you want a thrust block. And that's on top of the restraint gland fittings. He's gonna say, if this is enough, I don't need it, that's what we want. That's what we want a thrust block.
he verified.
He may already do it anyways, but some clients would be like, you don't need it. You want me to call him? Do you want it?
Well, I think if there's enough questions, then we should send a follow-up and say, we need to schedule a meeting, it's a whole team, so we'd have to find a time that we can get them on.
Yeah, because I'll tell him all this stuff, and
I
then,
mean, you know.
because this is what I do every
I
day.
mean, I think you were, well, I think you were on this one email, so I can send her file and say, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
schedule a follow-up, I don't know what your schedule is.
Yeah.
If you.
Who's the contractor doing the work?
It's, Arco Design Build
Never heard of
is
him.
the firm.
Okay,
So
but
the
they're not,
manager, there's a whole group of them.
okay. Where are they from?
I have no idea, the guy I was talking to was from Pennsylvania. Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So
So
I-
I thought, we could even do a conference call or a Zoom call, or a Teams meeting, whatever.
Well, I think you were on this email, his info is here, if you wanna give the guy a call, it just came today
Okay,
from Simone Tom, it went to your Sudbury email. He sent a whole summary of our meeting,
okay,
with all the, what they say, that's what I was reading to you, this whole schedule of things.
all right,
So if you had time to give him a call, that would be great.
I will.
If you wanna do that before I send any of this then, maybe, or.
Yeah, I'll call.
Um,
I'll try to call him tomorrow, take a look at half day, and go for a bunch of my friends.
I can let him know, and then,
Okay,
and I'll just put it, so I'll put a notice in the water bills that this is happening on these 2 dates and to check our website for more, and then I think we have email addresses for the majority of these people. It sounds like this should be pretty quick, there, at least, you know, in terms of just cutting in the T's
yeah, it sounds like you're pretty.
versus,
good to
you
go.
know, having to go to the store and find the last
Yeah,
piece
so
of
they can't
pipe.
do anything until they get all AC pipe out of there.
I was telling
They
that,
kind of stencil.
Curious question.
Oh, have to be a thrust block.
How do you reinforce this corner and that corner?
No, what you're gonna do, when they cut this main out,
yeah,
when they cut this main out,
But basically, there will be a bend right at the corner when the thing is all finished.
well, yeah, but your force, because your water is coming up like this, right? So it's
Well, it's going this way, but
no, it's not.
what's just coming this way. It's,
the source is up here.
I thought the source was here.
no, but the source is gonna be reversed though at some point too.
Right, yeah. So,
Currently, the source is here.
At the moment, and the proposal is to make the source over.
so Alan, good question. So you'll always put a thrust block behind a T. You want to put a thrust block there, all the way back to the back wall of the trench. And then ultimately, once they cut this pipe out, you're gonna put a thrust block here. All the way back to the trench. You follow me?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, so that covers that. I'm gonna thrust block off, let me see what they had to.
So the interesting question is, do we get to review the prints and make sure that they're there?
Well, yeah, because we don't really have a detailed plan. He didn't give you a detailed plan of the water main.
We can ask, I mean, I think it's on these plans, you just have to like, actually, no.
It's not a lot of detail. It's,
Well, so I think maybe it sounds like we need to either do that or invite them to a meeting, or if it's, if you're willing to talk to them.
yeah. Yeah, I know they're showing water main there, but there's not a lot of, they're not showing thrust blocks and they're not giving any, what do they use for material? Did we give them a list of material that meets our specifications?
We don't have any specifications,
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna
don't
follow
have
Hopedale.
specifications.
We usually tell people to follow Hopedale, that's what they've done in the past.
Okay,
And
so we should
Hopedale's
have
got a
got
whole book.
specifications.
And they are familiar, because
So
they're,
they're our specifications.
like a partner of this firm is doing the work in Hopedale, so they're familiar.
Okay,
Because the other issue I'm gonna bring up, somebody tried calling Hopedale to
okay.
get some information.
So does Hopedale have a good set of standards and specifications?
I have them, I wouldn't know what constitutes good, but they
Okay,
exist.
it must be on their website.
No,
It's not?
it's a Word doc, I'll send it to you.
Are you shitting me? Oh, I'm sorry, we're in an open meeting.
Rules and regs. I mean, I don't know, maybe it is now, but all I have is this.
How does it communicate with that? All right, I gotta look at their website.
I think it is. I'll find it in here.
Yeah, we should have our own set of standards and specifications, even if we just adopt Hopedale's. And say this is Mendon's specifications.
I guess, so what should I tell these people? Like, do we want to schedule another meeting with them, or do you just want to, if you guys.
I'll call him tomorrow.
That would be fine. I think, is he his phone?
I'll call him, and then I'll call you back and say, you know what, talk to him, we'll schedule a meeting. But you said they're looking to do the work like yesterday, right?
They want to, yeah, they're ready to go, so
Okay.
I think. I mean, I think for the easement, they need to have something that shows like the area.
Yeah, ultimately, so, do we even have a permit process for them to do the work on the water system?
We don't, because we don't do work on the water system, because there's no expansion allowed.
No, but if a client, well,
Like if somebody wants to, usually it's us doing the work, or it's a
Say
curb
there's
stop repair.
say there's a leak on, somebody's got a leak, and then ultimately, the town doesn't do any work on private property, right? The town only goes up to the curb stop.
Right, so like what just
So
happened
that-
with his neighbor?
So then,
Service line.
so then the homeowner has to hire a contractor, right?
Correct.
They don't pull a permit for that work?
As far as I know, you don't need a plumbing permit to do any work outside the house. So if we want to have those rules, we need to write them.
Yeah, we should, yeah.
Um,
I don't wanna get too deep with this, but yeah, we
You
should.
know,
Yeah, because ultimately, how do we track it? How do you record it?
well, like this one we know about, because we found the leak, we told her about it, so she went, investigated, replaced her old service
I
line,
know. But then down the road, somebody sells a house, commissioners move on. There's no documentation, there's no way to go back in time to say, oh yeah, hold on, let me look at the records, oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Joe will
guess.
pull a permit, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, part of that problem is we don't have any, our system is from the
Well,
stone
part of it
age.
is you're on demand, you don't get enough hours to do what you gotta do.
Well, like all this we're talking about, none of this is in my job description.
I know it isn't.
So I think,
Yeah,
if
what?
this board wanted to
What
come
is it,
up.
5 hours a week you get for the water?
Yeah, well, if this board wanted to come up with a permitting process for work, we should probably, that's something to think about.
But who's gonna manage it?
Even if it's
Somebody's
just,
gonna manage it.
yeah, well, it can be computerized, but just something that,
Yeah, yeah, it's a good idea, I don't wanna get too deep.
because 9 times, yeah,
Change ahead of this shit,
9
but-
times out of 10 we're doing it.
Yeah,
Um,
but anyway,
like,
all right, so I'll call this guy tomorrow, Dan.
Yeah, all right, do that.
I'll tell him what we want.
And then see what he says. I think, like I said, I think they're legit. I don't think they're trying to do whatever, but I think just make sure we're all on the same
Yeah.
page.
Yeah,
And then there was a few other items. So
all right, so the latest email you sent me, he's copied on it.
I'm gonna forward
His
his,
email's in it.
I'll
I
forward
mean, his
this
phone number's on
to
it.
you
yeah.
with his contact info.
Okay.
So you have it. They're looking for a temporary water connection for water for during construction. So that's, again, not something we've ever done. I think a literal reading of our contract would seem to indicate that that is not something that would be allowed. I did mention to them that all this,
Who wants
the contractor, they want like a fire hydrant meter, so they have water
on this project?
for this project. So,
Do we even have a hydrant meter to provide?
well, so that again, so they, somebody, so they are familiar, so one of them knew Tim, so we called Tim to ask, because he figured, what the hell? So Tim said that it's in Mendon, it's on Mendon's side of the meter, so we hope that, you know, they get billed twice. What he didn't say was absolutely not. So I don't know how you wanna handle that, so we have a hydrant meter.
We're not gonna give him water.
Huh?
Yeah, we're not gonna give him any water, he's gonna pay for it.
Well, yeah, they, obviously, they know that, and
So-
I should make them aware of what our rates are.
So, yeah, the way I do this
Sheet,
is they come up, they have to give a deposit to the meter, otherwise some contractors will block, they'll
Yeah.
block the street contract. So they gotta come up, depending on what size meter, two size meters, it's either a 3/4 meter, or we have a big 2.5 inch meter, 100 meter, that has a backflow device on it. So depending on the volume of water that they want, is what
Right.
we'll provide. So if it's a big meter, if they want a 2.5 inch meter, which I'm sure you don't even have.
well, so we have an old 2.5 inch hydrant meter on the shelf, because they bought it years ago, because I think they
When's the last time it was for Calgary?
probably never. It does not have any, I don't believe it has any sort of backflow, which I think is probably a requirement. And we need to buy a gate valve for it, which is,
Yeah, well, you have to have a gate valve for it. Yeah, they're not sure.
which is something that was, well, like $200, but that's fine. So that's the question. I did ask them what, you know, so we don't really have,
Because ultimately, as you know, the hydrant's got a drain on the bottom, so you always open hydrant 100%, right? And then they just operate it through the little gate valve that's on the meter. But if they want a large volume of water, yeah, they're gonna give you a $3,000 deposit. And then ultimately to get that deposit back. To get the deposit back, they're gonna pay for the consumption of the meter.
right, so you,
So you got a before reading and an after reading on the meter. They want a smaller meter, I would say you want a $1,000 deposit.
I mean,
well, so the problem we're having, right, so if we need to go out and buy something, I mean, these meters are $5,000, we don't have $5,000 to spend on a meter. I think that, I mean, we do, but that would be, you know, this
I mean,
is
it
a,
really depends on how much water they're using. If
Yeah,
something like this is
they're
$3,500.
making concrete with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, well, yeah, gone up, back when I bought mine, it was $2,500. That's why I said you gotta leave a $3,000 deposit.
Yeah, so we have an old, it's a census, it's a 2.5 inch. What?
Yeah, is it like that, is it?
It's, I don't think it has,
You buy it now with backflow devices built right in too.
I'm trying to find a picture, and I was trying to look it up, hang on, I think this, it's not fully this.
But you don't know what size meter he's looking for.
I don't, they didn't mention that, they just said temporary water for construction. I think they were looking to come off a hydrant though, like a hydrant.
Well, you could put a small meter
Dust
on a
control.
hydrant. You could even, you give them a 3/4 inch meter and they fill up a water truck for themselves.
Oh, I
A lot of
suppose,
times,
we'd have to figure out the fittings for that, I see what you're saying.
well, they actually, pipe and pipe would have a fitting for that.
Right,
A hydrant cap
Right.
with a 1 inch connection on it.
right, got it.
And then you just gotta, put the meter in.
So I do have, we've got a couple meters on the shelf that are slated for replacements that we could temporarily use for this.
Okay,
I guess that's not.
yeah, so I would call pipe and pipe.
Or we buy another meter for this purpose, or we should maybe buy, a meter of this size, I don't know, like I said, we have that meter, we just need a backflow
We
device.
should have one small meter in inventory for just this purpose, yeah.
But I-
Probably a big one.
I think also because really the contract, water's for approved lots only, and fire use.
Well, the other thing is too, even if the town needed it for like street sweeping and stuff, so what's the town doing?
My guess is that's part of why they bought that meter, I honestly don't know what they do.
So because here's the thing, you wanna record every drop of water because ultimately we're paying for it. And you gotta report that water in the ASR report, right? And this is
Yeah.
what the DEP.
I'll ask John, I guess they fill it from there, fill with the hose at highway, off the
They
well.
get it from, they get it.
You know, they just-
in the well.
Yeah, fill the tank and thing.
No.
Okay, so as long as, but if they connect it onto a fire hydrant, you wanna know.
Right,
And we started asking about a backflow preventer.
Yeah. All right, where are we now?
well, so I guess that's the question, what are we telling them about this, do we need to buy a hydrant? Are we telling them that our contract doesn't allow it, so they need to bring in a water truck and we can't help them? I don't even know.
what I would say to them, how much water do you need? If you need a small volume of water, we can, you gotta get the stuff for the small meter. Set up and just provide it for them. Say, yeah, we'll get it to you sometime next week.
Yeah, I think that,
You know,
that's
that's
a
fine.
timeline, but,
I could probably, yeah, I was gonna say I could get them separate, but
Yeah.
it's not that I shouldn't do that. So. Tell them that it's gonna have to run.
I mean, it's a couple of fittings is not a big deal
Yeah.
to just buy, so buy, a 2.5 inch gate valve and the reducer down to the 1 inch meter fitting. We have a 1 inch meter.
No, you wouldn't use it,
Like
if it's a smaller meter, you would use a 1 inch gate valve, a 1 inch ball valve.
But you wouldn't put this, so you connect it full bore to the meter, and don't even bother.
Yeah, the cap, the 2.5 inch cap, it's already sized down, it's plumbed, it's got a 1 inch threaded hole in it, so you would put a nipple on it. Say like a 2 inch nipple and put a valve, a 1 inch valve, it's all iron pipe thread. You follow me again?
Yeah, I'm Googling too.
Okay.
So something, yeah, like this is way too small, but something, I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to talk to them. But,
I can call Plug and Pipe and get exactly what you want.
so, find out what the,
Tom Bennett has an account there, right, Plug and Pipe?
I have to, we
You get
use,
all your material from.
I have to go back and research who we use. We used EJP for a lot of stuff.
Okay, EJP.
I think we have a kind of fun too. Honestly, it's so
The
infrequent.
reason why I say
We buy whoever we
EJP,
need.
really close.
But
There's only in Hopkinton, but EJP's fine.
well, if they have the stuff, I can go over there, but again, I have to do the water billing first before I can do any
Yeah, I got it.
projects.
They'll bring it over. You don't even have to go over there. How much you want your order, and they'll bring it over.
Now,
It's totally up to you.
I'll verify if we have an account with them. I honestly don't remember.
You must have an account at Plug and Pipe.
So what is it, I guess, or I can call them, but gotta figure out what we need then.
When you want, a hydrant cap or, setting up a 1 inch meter or a 3/4 inch meter. They'll have everything you need.
And
And if
then,
not, I know EJP will too.
and then the
Yeah.
meter, but then do we have to supply, like, are we just turning over the raw meter fitting to them, or do they need?
No, you're gonna give them something with a hose connection already set up, so, you can have 2 ball valves on it.
Right,
Or you can all you need is 1 ball. That way he's, because you're gonna turn the hydrant all the way on, and you set it for him. And ultimately, he's got water if he needs it, but ultimately.
alright, so we'll follow up with them, if that will work for them, because I think that 2 inch meter is a dinosaur, and
Yeah, it's probably not accurate either.
it doesn't.
Yeah. So-
We should be using, maybe, or tell them, they can supply a meter, and we'll just,
Oh, it could be a meter that, it's not working.
Well,
And hey, what do you know? No consumption on the meter. What are you gonna bill us for? No, you never allow them to do that.
we can try and, we can borrow it from another town, but.
Or maybe you could get that from Oakdale.
Yeah, I don't see the, whatever, and that was kind of, Hopedale can keep the money, like, we'll figure it out, like, we're just trying to get this built and done.
You don't want them to get the money part.
Well, if it's that or nothing, because Hopedale could theoretically say, absolutely not, it's not allowed. Go fill up your truck in Hopedale and bring it to Mendon if you want water.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, why we need.
But if Tim didn't say anything.
He didn't seem to say like, this, he just said, oh, we don't, I don't know, so.
I would let him do it. Just you want to make sure that we're, you get a deposit that we're going to record that the usage.
All right, so I'll look into that. Was there something else in the agenda
Okay.
for these people?
All right, I think we're on item B, 6B.
Yep, so that I think I already said it, but the deal, so unfortunately, we did not have enough money at the end of the fiscal year. But we need to get Hydrotech, I have an ongoing quote from them. We need them to come out and fix, the hydrant at 10 Cape is leaking. We've got to fix this hydrant at the top of Witten Road. I'm gonna see if 23 Cape will excavate the valve on that second hydrant, because we have the valve box while they're already there, because I think that would help everybody.
Yeah.
And then there's a hydrant on Dudley that we need to have, it's leaking, and we need to put back in service. We have that hydrant money.
Okay.
We did, I think I put it in an email, so the town, they're finally hopefully signing the MOA for the new contract. There seems to be an understanding that outside of that contract, we can then sit down with the select board and come up with a side letter for specific overtime needs for water. That was kind of one of the things that came out of that.
Okay.
So I think in the early fall, that should be a discussion point with them to say, all right, here's these, flushing the hydrants, exercising valves, here's the estimate, here's where it's funded from, is everybody okay with it?
Yeah, meeting meetings too, dealing with complaints.
Well, they are doing an organizational study of the town, and I think we're gonna get those study results around the same time and a bigger thing. Ultimately, this probably should be its own position, but you're not gonna find a 5 or 10 hour week person, so you either pay a full-time job to sit and twiddle their thumbs for 153 customers, or you've gotta merge it somehow.
You're,
Could you?
how many hours a week, Dan?
So now I'm gonna be up to 40 for everything.
Oh, you don't even 40 hours?
I'm 38. So that's, and water is just the 5 hours, and I'm really just a clerk. All this other stuff, some of it I've done just because nobody was doing it, or I had some expertise, but,
Oh my God.
and we did get them to pay for the hydrant flushing.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the thing, it's like these meter changes and stuff, we can pay somebody $60, you pay me, who cares?
Okay.
It's not like it's more money, or,
Right, you get overtime?
well, so that's the problem, is there's no overtime, so then the work doesn't get done.
Yeah, fucking dedicated.
Right, so I simply don't do, if I'm out of hours, then we're done.
Right, yeah, you gotta do
And
it.
that's why the minutes are so delayed, that's why, because I have to pick, do we do the billing or do minutes?
Right, I get it. Totally get it. Does the
Yeah.
town manager get it?
I think I've had this, I think we found somebody really good, I will say.
Okay.
I think,
You gotta get it. What do you gotta do?
I think
Nobody
we found
works
somebody
for free,
really
you got family members to do it.
I think,
Yeah, good. How old is he, let you know?
not sure, I think he's gonna need that.
Okay.
He was the CFO of the Bristol County Sheriff's Association, apparently,
He's not gonna be it.
so. No, hopefully, I think
2 or 3.
somebody to come here, clean things up, build structure.
Yeah, he's looking just because
He
of
answers
experience.
emails. Did Kim attend a single one of our meetings? He comes to meetings, he answers emails, he responds to you, it's amazing.
Yeah, he seems really nice.
So,
yeah.
That's been good.
Good. All right, anyway,
And
move on.
then, so, Mill River, the service line was fixed, Braza did it.
Okay.
The only thing, so I was telling Alan before we started, so they found the leak was right where Jesse said it would be, which I haven't told him that yet. There was a joint in the pipe, like a union.
Yeah.
As soon as they exposed it, it blew apart. We think it was done at construction, because I don't think any work's been done there, so I think they just ran on a pipe and slapped the thing on there. At the curb stop, it had some sort of a compression fitting with this rubber gasket, and the gasket was destroyed, and he called me, they couldn't find the parts, they were thinking they're gonna have to shut stuff down. Turns out Milford found, they had the part on the shelf for the back somewhere, but then there's some special fitting that goes on a compression style threads with a rubber gasket,
Yeah, you gotta use up,
and it clamps to the pipe on the other side.
yeah, like a little neighboring washer goes in there.
So we're gonna buy a couple of those to have on the shelf, because I was like, oh, that's, like, I didn't know that existed.
Right.
I mean, Braza did all this, but,
Cool.
so
Okay,
that's fixed.
good. You said there were 2 hydrant leaks?
There's the hydrant at Dudley Road, he found it as a leak before, we took it out of service, it needs to be fixed.
Okay.
I think it's the valve seat.
Okay,
And the hydrant at 10 Cape looks like it may have been hit at some point, and it was identified in a leak survey.
okay,
Our water use is slightly elevated, and I think this leak at Mill River was certainly part of it.
yeah, okay,
But that ain't helping, so we gotta get those done.
okay, yeah, I agree.
And then
All right, item 7.
the billing is just, I'm gonna get the bills out, I gotta update the rating system, but they'll hopefully go in the mail. I'm hoping to read the meters tomorrow and then get it all done,
Okay,
barring any more ridiculousness that comes up.
this week, yeah, okay, good. All right, item 8, items not reasonably anticipated, 40 hours in advance of the meeting. I think we covered it all.
No, and then I guess just for now, the next date would be September 5th, but I think unless they're comfortable doing construction on the existing easement, we may need to meet to sign the easement as soon as it's ready.
We can meet virtually if need be.
Unless you're okay,
So-
unless you're okay voting to sign it pending review by council, assuming it doesn't, I don't know if you want to see the final document.
I don't think we can do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think we can do that. I can't take a vote without it first being reviewed by the
Yeah.
council. I'm making it conditional. That's a question. Alan, can we do that?
Do what?
Vote on the easement, make it conditional on just your council's, review and approval?
Well, let's see, what, the easement, as it present sits, I presume, is no money changes hands,
Right.
and I guess the thing to do is find the easement, which might require.
So Ted,
I mean, I have the document here, and it's all of her feedback, so I don't know if we wanna wait to see a final draft, or.
I have, is I'm thinking about this, I have no problem making a motion to approve the easement pending town council's review and his
That's the lawyer?
approval, yeah,
Yeah.
town council's review.
Cause then we could just collect
Of the-
signatures, but we're gonna have to sign a wet document anyway, so maybe we should just.
Yeah, okay, all right, we'll table it then.
I don't know, I feel bad because I wanna close this out, and unfortunately, our council is dragged on for forever.
All right, then we'll just table it.
I think, I can be in touch if people are available to just do a quick meeting.
Yeah, we could probably do something virtually and,
August is a little better, I mean, I'm booked every night next week. Once we get through that,
No.
things are much better.
okay.
Who owns the upper part of Witten Way?
I'll have to ask John about that. I'm not clear if Whitten Road was ever formally accepted. Maybe it is down to that partially like where Gasco, like the end of Gasco.
When they redrew the tax map last year,
Well, you said the town owns the whole thing.
Witten Road disappeared.
Well, let me look at her maps here. I honestly don't. Hang on, where is it? Scroll up. There's this small cutout on the tax maps, but you can't trust these because they're not surveys, they're just, like there could be weirdness.
How wide is the easement that we're gonna end up with here?
So the easement, I'd have to read the language of it.
It's gonna be the exact same width as what the existing easement is.
Hang on.
You just relocate the easement.
So the current easement says a permanent water line easement on land, blah, 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 blah. The easement area consists of land which is 10 feet on either side of an existing 8-inch water line.
Oh my God, that's not good.
And so now the modification that the red line, hang on, what is
Put a
this?
minimum 3-foot wide easement.
This just says they're relocating the existing easement to the new easement area. It actually does not reference that, so we need to talk about this easement.
Yeah, we do.
But again, if we're asking for those things, then I think we need to meet with them again.
Because here's the
Well,
thing,
different.
we wanna make sure the easement's wide enough for us to get in there and do a water main repair, or any type of modification.
Presumably,
Yeah, to me, 16 feet.
these people own
16 feet is
up
all
to Cape Road.
Well, again, we have to, I guess we'll have to see what the legal description is, because
The
it's,
tongue where the road is part of 23.
Yeah.
um,
Ugh. Okay.
So it seems like
Yeah, this whole thing,
some lawyerly juggling has got to happen somewhere, and it's not our road.
this should have been all flushed out at the planning board meeting too.
they don't have involvement in this. So unfortunately, this came to us, we met with Connor, we met with all them, we talked about all this, I think,
But the planning board, they,
he sent the draft easement. The problem is our council then sat on it for almost a month before it finally went back. So now we've got it, we sent back with feedback, now we've got a revision. So I don't know if we, if our feedback is, so we're saying, what's the minimum, so I'm reading this again.
And a key question is, are the people who are building a warehouse going to keep ownership of the road? Are they gonna sell it off to some other corporation?
Yeah, again, I don't know, I really don't know where the
So
town's
what-
property ends.
Just storage? It's gonna be just
We
storage?
don't know, they haven't disclosed, they don't think they have a tenant.
Okay.
But if you Google this company, they seem to work for one, a lot of, where, but maybe that's just what you
Because
see.
here's the other.
It's small though, it's not that big, it's 200,000 square feet.
Yes. Yeah, I was just saying, you got heavy trucks going up and down with an AC water main on that right away.
So I think the question then, what is, oh, here. Is this the new easement? Grantor granted, oh no, that's the old. What is the, or do we want some sort of language that says we have access over their existing roadway? I think they would prefer that, or some sort of, Grantor granted the grantee a permanent water line easement, area consists of land which is 10 feet on either side of an 8-inch line. And then, now therefore, blah, blah, blah. Grantor and grantee acknowledge and agree that they're gonna relocate it from this to the new area attached here to legally described. So we need this description of the easement area. Doesn't state that in this, but I can tell them. we have-
And I don't, so they're talking 20 feet, I don't think that's out of it either. But ultimately, it should match what, what the current easement is. If that's how the current easement reads, then,
Yeah, well, I think, or if there can just be language that gives us the access we need, because the majority of it is over like a driveway,
yeah.
so.
And it occurs to me that somebody has got to revise the meets and bounds in that easement.
But that's what they're
And
doing,
that's a surveyor.
because here, this is what we have right now. If I get this to share again, this is the current easement. It's literally a sketch.
Yeah, but it still must have a description, like how wide the easement is.
It literally just says this easement granted herein, it's 10 feet on either side of an 8-inch water line line.
Oh, so-
Approximate sketch.
So they're pretty much taking the language from this easement and,
But they're supposed to prepare a whole new exhibit, and if you read this thing, it talks about, as depicted on exhibit B1 and
Yeah.
legally described exhibit B2, which they haven't done yet.
okay. Okay,
Um,
all right, good, so we'll table that then too. All right, anything else for the meeting?
I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn,
Second,
all those in favor? Aye,
aye.
aye. Meeting adjourned at, what's